So I watched or saw this video on, I think it was Instagram, that I shared with you because it was a little bit of a trigger moment for me. And in this
Lots of
video,
voice
as
notes that happened after.
exactly, in this video, we're not going to share the video or even say who the person was because, it's not necessary. But basically what was happening was there was this woman that went to a very high profile, let's call it business person. She went to his conference or an event or some place that he spoke at. And she asked a question. Now, we do want to just add that obviously we have no idea what was said before he actually spoke to her and what was said after. So we're taking it in the context of the 30 seconds we actually saw. But she basically asked him a question and he told her that she doesn't have a real business, that the business that she's running isn't actually a real business because it's not scalable. She's the one running the business. She's basically a solo entrepreneur. That's how I would explain it. And so I wanted to have this conversation and talk about what is a business really, and when are you a business owner?
Yes, yes. And also to add to that, he also said that at some point there won't be a business anymore because it will be depleted. Someone will take her methodology and just run with it on their own, and therefore she won't have a business again. And that's also what we want to address today, to talk about if you have a business idea and it is possible for others to copy it or to take your methodology and apply it to themselves, and maybe your services become redundant, that's still not a reason to not start a business. So we'll
Yeah,
cover that aspect
exactly.
as well.
Exactly. And I think the thing that really just stood out to me watching this clip, I mean, you can see her face when she shares what she does, when he asks her, "What is your business?" And she is so lit up by what she does. You can
Yes.
see it in her eyes, right? You can see it. And as soon as he goes, "This is not a real business," she she actually goes, "What?" But she was like shocked and even, I suppose, a little bit upset by the fact that he had the audacity to tell her that this is not a real business. But as he kept talking, you could see her deflate because she was
Yes,
listening to everything that he was telling her, sort of taking it in and believing him, which
exactly.
was really sad to me. And so, I actually find myself, as I was preparing for this episode and making notes, I was really thinking about her and just hoping that she wasn't going to let this stop her, like that this is going to stop her from continuing down this road of being a business owner and owning a business and chasing after her dreams and making the impact that she wants to make in this world. So yeah, it
Yes.
was.
Yes. And it's for us, we haven't been in business for 10, 20 years. It's also, we know the pain of starting a business and all the energy that you have to put into it. It really is all consuming. You become the business becomes you. And I think when you identify so strongly with something, for someone to tell you that in front of a whole group of people as well, so it's also a bit of that embarrassment factor. It's a slap in
Yeah.
the face, but also to, after you already at that point of being exhausted, of having been in this game for quite a while now and really trying to keep your energy high, to get a
Mhm.
message like that can be so discouraging, especially from a person that you really respect.
Yeah.
And that's a message we want to get out there today. You don't have to listen to everyone, even if they're an authority person, even if they're an expert, just keep going anyway. Because
Yeah.
even if at some point you see it's not scalable, which I think any business can be made into something that's scalable, but or even if someone else adopts your methodology, if you were able to start and grow a business once, then you can do it again on a different level. So there's
Yeah.
never a reason to get discouraged.
Yeah, exactly. I always think about the clients that come through my door. We always start with the question, what do you actually want from this business? And so sometimes we find ourselves freaking out over, is it scalable? Should I, like, what is my next level of growth? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't want to grow your business, but for many business owners, they don't necessarily want the massive growth business that is highly scalable and that is going to scale. And so just getting in, like, being intentional with what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, I think is always the first step. But I think for me, the lesson in this, definitely, as you and I were talking about it as well, is just to be careful whose advice you seek, and to make sure that the people that you do actually listen to, that their values are aligned with yours, because it can really put you down a rabbit hole of doing things and changing things and implementing things in your business that, down the line you might realize that's not really what I wanted. This is not really
Yes.
what I want for
And
myself.
you might not be mature enough yet in your business, for your business itself and for you as a person, because I also think we grow with our businesses. I always say, I'm glad that I don't start off with 100 million subscribers on YouTube, because that would totally freak me out, because the first
Yeah.
video is so awkward and you feel uncomfortable. And anything else, the first client that sits in front of you, it's uncomfortable. You don't feel like you're owning your shit yet. It's a process
Yes.
and you have to evolve into it. And I think you might at some point be ready for that expert's advice. But just
Yeah.
because you're not ready for it now doesn't mean you're not ready to run a business or have a business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that sort of brings us to, when is it a business and when are you a business owner? Because I think one of the things that stood out in the video, or one of the, let's call it, supporting factors that he was talking about, is that she's a solo entrepreneur. She is the business. And so to me, it doesn't matter whether you are a solo entrepreneur, whether you have a team. I think many business owners start out by being the solo entrepreneur, being the one doing it all themselves. And I think for the most part, it is because we bootstrap our businesses. We fund it from our own funds, right? So many of us have full-time jobs when we start a business, which is a great way of doing it, by the way, because there is nothing worse than putting financial pressure on yourself and this little baby business that you have
No, it's
to make
lovely.
money,
It's so
right?
nice. You sleep really well at night.
So, I mean, for the most part, we're like not getting investors. We're not getting people to invest money into our businesses. And we're doing it all ourselves in the beginning, because we often have more time than we actually have money in the beginning. And so it makes sense for us to learn the skills to do the things. And one thing that I always, think about when it comes to like my journey of entrepreneurship and owning business, or owning a business, is that it's good for us to be in the trenches doing all the things in the beginning, because you learn what works, what doesn't work so quickly. And it doesn't mean that you should stay there, or keep yourself trapped in the day to day of doing all these things, but understanding what happens in each sort of area of your business, or let's call it department of your business, having like a very good understanding of what it takes for it to work and not work. I think that actually makes you a better leader in the end, because you were the one on the floor doing it. So you understand the challenges, you understand how hard it is and how much work and effort it takes. And so when you do eventually build a team and you have people who take over certain areas in your business, now you actually have a really good understanding of what that person is dealing with day to day.
Just meeting up with that, also creating a brand identity and your voice in the business, because you also want your business to reflect you and your values. And if you don't go through that process on your own in the beginning, your business might not take on your values or your image. It will just be an accumulation of everyone else in the team. So that's also another reason why it's important to just walk the walk on your own for a little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think, when it comes to what is a business and when are you actually a business owner, I believe you have a business whenever you create value in the marketplace, you charge someone for it and you make a profit. And I mean, that is why we are in business. That's sort of the essence of business, right? Is to solve a problem
Yes.
or solve something for a customer out in the real world and getting paid to fix it for them or to help them with it, or however you want to sort of structure it. But that is business. That's what businesses do. And if you do those things, you are a business owner. Like, it's really that simple. And so
Congratulations.
saying to someone that you're not because you are a solo entrepreneur, I'm like, no, that's not true. I don't agree with that. So yeah, I also think that being a business owner, and that's sort of the message that we want to share with everyone listening to this episode today, is that there are certain things that you can only discover and learn about yourself by being a business owner. There is an opportunity to become someone that you want to be, right? To experience certain things in this world that really is, there is something special about being a business owner that can create that for you. I always
Yes.
say that, like, being a business owner or owning a business is probably the best personal development course you will ever take in your entire life, because it just brings up all the shit. It brings
It
up
does.
everything. Yeah,
And you basically live on the edge of your comfort zone every
yes,
single day, because as
yes,
long as you stay within your comfort zone, you will just stay where you are. You won't grow. I had
yeah,
this conversation with my husband the other day, and it was so valid. And I said to him, I'm spending on my marketing and all of the things that you need to invest in your business in relation to what I earn now.
yeah,
And as I earn more, I will do more. And then he
yep.
said, well, if you're just going to keep working on that boundary, you're always going to stay where you are now. You're never going to grow
Mm,
out of it.
yeah,
So you have to invest more, whether it's monetary or psychological, pushing
time.
yourself out of
Yep,
your comfort zone, not waiting until you're ready, but getting yourself ready. That's the only
yeah,
way you grow. So it's a lot.
yeah. Yeah, I love how we have these discussions with our husbands. I sometimes think that my husband should legit be a coach because he has the wisest things to say. When I am like in the river of misery having discussions with him around like what next step should I take, it's always fascinating.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, we often talk about the challenges of being a business owner as well. And, the amount of, let's call it sacrifice, because that's in essence what it is, right? There's so many things that we could be doing, but we're choosing to do this. We're choosing to build a business. And in the beginning, when things felt like they're just not going in any direction, like I just have no idea what I'm doing. And for the most part, I still have many of those days, right? So it's not like I'm on the other side of it. But I used to think that being a business owner is actually making me a miserable person. And I know this is going to sound very dramatic, and hopefully everyone understands it the way I'm intending it, right? But I used to feel like I have this business and it's now just turning me into this miserable person. And then I realized, no, actually, I am just miserable. Like, I am just miserable, and the business is actually just highlighting that. It's actually just highlighting that.
Wow.
And so there are
Yeah.
certain things that I need to work on, things that I need to work at within
Yes.
myself and the person that I want to be. And the business is such a great opportunity for me to do that, because it's bringing up everything, every fear, every doubt, every insecurity is coming to the surface now. And so
Yes.
I see this business as an opportunity for me to become the person that I know I can be, that I want to be, like that next level of growth for me, right? And so it's like a very fast supersonic jet that we're on.
Yes. I
So
love that. And I love your honesty toward yourself. And again, that just highlights one of the perks. Like you said, it's this instant personal development course. And you have to be willing to be brutally honest with yourself
yeah,
and tackle things beyond your business as well. So if you in general not a happy person, you're going to be worse off in your business, probably.
exactly.
Or if you extremely anxious, and we'll also get to that later in the episode, but if you struggle to self-regulate your emotions, it's a skill you're going to have to learn because nothing is a straight line.
Exactly.
Not in
That's
life and
so
also
true.
not in your business.
Yeah, that's so true. So I was thinking after watching this video and just sort of gathering my thoughts, like brain dumping it in a voice note to Mandy, I made a list of the skills that I believe is available to us as business owners that we all want to learn these skills. It's definitely something that I think makes us better people, it makes us better humans, better partners, better parents, better friends. And so the first skill to me is to make money, to learn how to make money. And not just make money, but actually manage money as well. And I was like looking or listening to this video, and the first thing that popped up to me is there is this woman sitting in front of this man who's making a ton of money, he's doing really well for himself, and it's almost like all the social conditioning, especially as it relates to women and money, how that just popped up into my head. I was like instantly almost triggered a little bit because I thought to myself, this woman is putting herself out there every day, learning the skill of making money and managing money. And who are you to tell her she cannot do this or shouldn't do this? This is a bad idea. And so I did some research, and it's fascinating that not that long ago, women globally, obviously in certain countries it was different. The timeline is a little bit different, but for the most part, it wasn't too long ago that women weren't even allowed to get credit cards or take out loans or make any financial decisions really without a male signing off on it. Like that's just insane to me. And so
Yeah.
I think as a woman, we have sort of gotten this message that we're not really good with money. We can't be trusted with money. We can't be trusted in these high profile boardrooms or, positions. And so to me, it's like we need more women actually making money, because if you look at the statistics in terms of what happens when a woman is in a position of power, typically, like only good things happen, right? And so more more money in the hands of women is actually a great idea. Like it's a good thing. We should be focusing on, and it's just interesting how little support there are for women still to this day. I mean, women still have less money coming in terms of the pay gap between men and women. And it's not to bash men or you know turn it into this sort of like let's burn our bras moment, but it's just it's just interesting that it's sort of harder for women to get to this place that men are at currently. And I think,
And
yeah,
I think for ourselves as well, it's not only how the world views us, it's also how we view ourselves.
yes,
Because I think it's also that generational influence of it's okay to not earn money as a woman, and I mean it's still fine. You do whatever makes you happy. But
yeah,
if it's something that you want to do, it is definitely a part of you is doubtful because you feel. I think it's gotten so much better. Thank God we live in the time that we do. I think there's a lot of empowerment for women, and we
Yeah.
are moving toward equality, so that's so amazing. And I'm talking now about the personal feeling of, am I as good as a guy to earn the same amount?
Yeah.
Can I be just as confident to ask for a raise or to charge more? And I think that's so much that we have to deal with ourselves as well. And what example did our mothers give us, or our grandmothers, or all the
Yeah.
women in our lineage and our family line?
Yeah.
And to stand up and be the other one and do something differently, it takes courage, and it's scary. There's so much doubt that goes along with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also when we think just in terms of the access that, statistically that women have to things like funding, as an example, it's way less. I think the statistics say like 28% of women-owned businesses don't, like, they get access to formal financing or to formal credit, but the other 70% doesn't, right? And so we have to start somewhere. And I'm not saying that, it is unfair, I suppose, but one of the skills that we'll get to is taking responsibility. And I think that when we sort of pick up if we answer the call to being a business owner, choosing to step into this role and pick up the responsibility of making money inside of our businesses, I think there is a level of responsibility that we also take for making it happen for ourselves. Like we don't have someone else that's just going to come and fix it for us or make it happen for us. And so I think that also teaches us some very valuable skills that we can use in all areas of our
Yes.
life. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that part counts for men and women. I mean, if you're a business
Yeah,
owner, no one's going to come and save you.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
up to you. So it
Yeah.
is just business in general, just earning money for yourself. Even if you don't see yourself as a business owner, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome that comes with that as well. So when is it an actual business? Is it when you have a team, like you said before? But if you're creating income for yourself, you're in business,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it gets
At
challenging.
first sale. And I would even
Yes.
argue, like before that, when you are taking the actions of marketing, when you are taking the actions of putting something out there into the world that is valuable to a person or a group of people and making them an offer that they can pay you for, you're in business. That's business, right?
Yes.
And I remember my very first sale, the very first time someone actually paid me for a service. I was like, what is happening? How is this happening? It almost feels
What is
like
this black magic?
you took like two magic sticks and rubbed them together and you created fire, right? It's insane.
Yeah.
And so I think it's to me, it's such a blessing to actually be in this position where we can talk about this, but also be business owners ourselves. I think that, there is nothing else I would rather do than this, even though it is this like hellfire ride. Yeah. I wouldn't change it.
Are we selling it, guys?
Exactly. Okay, so here's the second the second skill that you learn or can learn as a business owner, and that is emotional regulation, right? One of the things that if you've been in business for a minute, you know that there are a lot of ups and downs. There is a lot of stuff happening, and not all of it is fun. Not all of it is pretty, right? And so we need to learn as business owners how to emotionally regulate ourselves and bring ourselves down from the extreme highs and up from those extreme lows to more of a neutral ground so that we can actually make decisions using our higher brains versus the scared little kid that's like, I'm going to die. So
Yeah.
learning how to do that, I think, is such a valuable skill because, again, it's something that we can apply in any area of our life. It literally makes us a better human being for being able to do this.
Yes, and also connected to that is being able to detach yourself, your value from your
Yes.
business, your value as a person from what you achieve in your business. Because going back to our example of that video, if that woman highly identifies with her business, which is inevitable, it's so hard not to,
Yeah.
then an answer like that could make you feel less valuable about yourself because it was your idea. So you see it as a part
Yes.
of yourself. And that is
Mm,
such a massive challenge. And that's also a benefit of what you learn when you're in business for yourself is to learn to detach and analyze instead of making it about you.
yeah.
So if I get a rejection or someone makes a snarky comment, it's not me, it's not directed toward me. It's something
Yeah.
in my business that I can evaluate and analyze and then
Yeah.
choose, am I going to accept this? Is it true? Can I change it? Or am I going to walk my own path?
Yeah, and that's such a great question to ask. I ask this all the time in my coaching sessions with my clients. Is it true? Like, is it really true? And how do you know? How do you know it's true? So fascinating.
Exactly.
The stuff that we can
Yes.
convince ourselves of, right? Yeah, so I
I
think
love that
emotional
second
regulation.
question. How do you know it's true? Because it's,
Yeah,
yes, I know. I just feel
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, let's take the feeling out of it. How do you actually know?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think like for me, emotional regulation is it's such a big part of everything that we do as business owners and as entrepreneurs because sometimes we have these big sort of these big elaborate plans and ideas and goals that we set for ourselves. And a part of the emotional regulation for me is to hold belief of something, to hold belief about a goal or a project that I'm working on, even though I can't see the results yet, and keeping the momentum going, right?
Yes.
Even though I like everything's telling me to be very unmotivated at this time, but bringing myself back to that
Yeah.
place where I feel on fire. And I think that understanding that this is in our control, like we can motivate ourselves, we can get the fire back, we can feel excited about business again, regardless of what has happened or what is happening in the present moment. So I think this is definitely a skill that, if there is any one skill that I had to choose, it would probably be this one because it's something that is such a powerful sort of motivator and driving force in how we show up daily as business owners.
Yes, and tying in with that, I think having a North Star, having a reason why you're doing something, it's like Simon Sinek says, you need to have the why. It starts with the why.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to feel on fire all the time. And that's okay. You don't have to wake up passionate and excited every day. It's just
Yes.
so unrealistic. And I think that's
Yeah.
also a very big downfall. Oh, hey, I was so excited. I had this massive dopamine hit when I started. Every
Mm-hmm.
day was like, ooh, what's in the lucky packet today? And then
Yeah.
over time it gets boring. Then it comes down to the grind where you just have to do what you have to do. And motivation does forsake you over a while, over
Yeah.
some time. And there you need a driving force. You need a reason why you're doing it and a belief in your business. And then
Yeah.
you do it even though you don't feel passionate
Yes.
until you see
Yeah.
results. And then you get that like high again.
Yeah. But I
And then you
also
start
think
the
that
process over.
when we reconnect to the why, right? And that's what emotional regulation is. It's about reconnecting and choosing how we want to feel in any given moment. And so I think, yeah, it's very, very powerful. So the third skill is taking responsibility for yourself. Because
I love
I
that
know
one.
this,
That's my
I know
jam.
this is I this is a big one, and I see this so often in my kids. Like it's so funny. I have to quickly tell you this story. I was talking to my son, and he was complaining about his sister, who he was very angry about something she said. So he's sitting next to me, and I can just see him going down this rabbit hole of negativity that he's like, but she does this and she does that, and she always does this and always says that, right? And so I'm like, there was an opportunity here. And so he says, but she does this and she said this thing. And I was like, okay. So firstly, you're going, like, I get it. I understand your frustration, firstly, but also you're going down this rabbit hole now. And can you see how the further you go down, the more and more negative things you can actually think about? And some of these things are just like not even true. It just feels very true to you in this moment. And also, you do many of these things that you are complaining about. You do, right? So these are the thoughts that are going on in my head. And I said to him, he was like, we talked about the things that upset him, and I could see him feeling a little bit better. And I said to him, so is there anything that you can think about your sister that you actually appreciate? And he was like, no, I can't think of anything right now, because he was so he was so angry with her, right? And then he goes back to all of the negative things. And I'm like, I said, buddy, you're going down the rabbit hole again. And at some point in this like 10, 15-minute conversation, he stops himself after saying something again, and he goes, I'm not going down the rabbit hole. And I said, you are in the rabbit hole. You're still in the rabbit hole. And he goes, he goes like this. He says, so how do I get out?
What a
And I think
shame.
that is
Welcome
the
to
prime,
adulthood.
yeah, that's like the prime example of taking responsibility for yourself. Because yes, you got angry, you felt frustrated, someone wronged you, something happened that wasn't fair. But at the end of the day, we get to take responsibility for how we're going to respond about this thing that happened, right? How do we want to show up? How do we want to be in this situation? And so this skill of learning how to take responsibility is also such a valuable one, because like Mel Robbins says, no one's coming to save you. There isn't a white horse and a knight and everything's perfect. It doesn't exist. So if something isn't working, it's your responsibility to change it. You're in the driver's seat of your business, and you need to drive the car, right?
On that note, Sadhguru also has a great quote, and he says it's not about responsibility, it's about your ability to respond.
Yes,
So
exactly. Good
it's not
point.
about whose fault it is, it's about what are you going to do about it. And
Yeah.
I live by that. I love that. Even if
Yeah.
unfair things happen, how are you going to respond?
Yeah, exactly. Love it. Okay, so that's the third skill. The fourth is resilience and courage. I sort of grouped it together because I felt like we have these moments of courage where we sort of just jump into it and we're like, we're doing this thing, right? And then you fail. Things don't work out. Things don't go according to plan. And the more we can have those moments of jolts of courage and jump back into the arena, and the more we fail, the more we succeed. Like there is this sort of cycle that starts churning, and that builds resilience in us. It makes us stronger. It makes us better business owners. And I don't think that you can become the best version of who you want to be without the failures, without the moments of courage, without building resilience, right?
Yes, and you don't want to avoid it. The sooner you fail in the beginning, the more you get used to it, and it becomes easier to just deal with it. Because I also know people who have made very little mistakes in their lives and had very few failures. And then when one does happen 20 years later, it hits hard and it's hard to recover from,
Yeah.
because having everything go well does not build resilience. It doesn't teach perseverance. It's the bad times, it's the hardship that makes that. So it's such a confusing feeling, because we do everything, it's our nature, it's our instinct to try and avoid pain, but
Yeah.
yet only in pain there's magic and there's growth. So
Exactly.
reframe
I
it
had a
for
call.
yourself if you have to.
Exactly. I had a call with a client who is going through a difficult time in their business. And when we really unpacked the difficulty, we quickly realized that there are certain things that you can only learn in the valley. There are certain things that you can only become wiser to when things aren't going well, when things aren't going according to plan. And if things are always just going well, I mean, it sounds nice, but it doesn't really grow you. It doesn't improve you, right? And so we actually do want the valleys because it makes us, again, more resilient. It teaches us certain things. It makes us aware of things that we wouldn't have become aware of if we didn't go through this hardship.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one is the skill of being in service. And I think this goes hand in hand with just being a business owner. You cannot be a successful business, sustainably successful, if you aren't in service of others, right? So at some point, you have to take the attention off of you and what you can get from a situation and put it on how can I serve? How can I be of help? How can I make an impact? And I think the more we shift our attention to, oh, but it's not working for me, to how can I actually help someone today? How can I actually be of service with my business through the services that I offer? It makes it so much harder. And I believe that's so many businesses fail because of that, right? Because it's so sort of self-centered versus how can I actually solve someone's biggest problem? Yeah.
Yes. And tying back to the video that we mentioned in the beginning, if it's about someone else is going to take your method, at some point you won't be needed anymore. If your focus is always on adding value, and if you
Yes.
see, okay, people's got this down, I mean, we're in the coaching industry. Just because someone gets to a point where they can self-regulate, where they can do whatever they came to us
Yes.
for, to
Yes.
learn,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that we're out of work, because
No.
there's always something else that you can tackle. There's always something else you can improve. And
Yeah.
if you make it about them, you'll always have new ideas. It doesn't matter what the industry is that you're in. If you always
Yeah.
make it about the service, you're always going to have new ideas.
Yeah. And I also believe that inspiration comes when we take action, right? So it's almost like when you have an idea of something, I firmly believe that it's like the universe going, let's see what she's going to do with this, right? So it might be like this little tiny idea and it might seem very dumb and like, not a big deal. And actually doing it, then the universe is like, oh, okay. So she took action on this. So let's give her a bigger idea. Let's give her some more inspiration. And I think
I
it's
love
this
that.
ripple effect that happens, right? So the more we
Yes.
actually take action on something, the bigger things will come to us. That we always think that, oh, I have this idea and this is my best idea. But it's not true.
Yes.
There is this vastness available to us, but we have to take action on the ideas that we have currently before those things are going to come to us. Yeah. Okay, so the next
Amen.
one is learning how to trust yourself. And this is also a big one. I think that when it comes to being a business owner, there is a level of trust that you need to have in yourself and in your ridiculous ideas, right? You have to, at some level, have your own back. And the bigger you grow, the faster you go, the more trust you have to have in yourself. And so being in business is something that's going to develop this skill for you because, like I said, no one else is going to have the same level of belief and excitement and drive and purpose for your business that you're going to have, right? So you have to have
Yes.
your own back.
And you have to take yourself seriously. We had this conversation. Ilanka and I have a library of voice notes. I think if we just combine all of that, that's like 3 years worth of podcasts. But we always
Easy.
talk about how we take ourselves serious in all the wrong ways, and
Yes.
we don't take ourselves serious when it really counts. So to set a goal, to achieve a goal, you have to take yourself seriously, and you
Yeah.
have to trust yourself that you'll be able to get there. And where you shouldn't take yourself too seriously is if you make a mistake or if you embarrass yourself. Then you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this happens. Let's figure it out and continue. But the seriousness should be, and the trust should be in your ability to get there and putting
Yeah.
all your energy into that. And it takes
Yeah.
courage. It takes courage to set a goal.
It does.
It's easy
It
to say,
does.
I want to do this, but really, really going after it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. That's very true. The next one is essentialism. Being a business owner teaches you how to focus on what is essential, what actually matters. Because we all know if we continue doing things inside of our businesses, especially as solo entrepreneurs, if we're not doing things that actually move the business forward, the business won't be there for very long. So it sort of hyper focuses us onto the things that actually move the needle and that matter at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah, when you say yes to one thing, you say no to another. So make sure that you're saying yes to the
Yay.
right thing.
I love that. Okay, the next one is creativity. Being a business owner and being in this world where things are constantly changing. The market is constantly changing. What clients want is constantly changing. And it puts us at the center of creativity, tapping into our own creativity as business owners, which is very exciting. Like, even if you don't see yourself necessarily as a very creative person, I think there is creativity in all of us, regardless of how you define creativity, but coming up with clever solutions, coming up to solutions to problems that feel like there is no end in sight to this thing and it's never going to get solved. Tapping into that creativity is what moves us forward in ways that is sometimes unexplainable to other people looking in from the outside. Like, how did you actually figure this out? How did you do this in this amount of time? And I believe it's when we actually tap into that creativity and, again, trust ourselves to make the moves that feel right in the moment.
Yes, and also how many creative solutions you can come up with. That's also important. I think it was in Tony Robbins' training, or I'm not quite sure where I heard this, but that you should always come up with at least 5 options or 5 solutions to a problem. Because the
Oh,
first 3 are options that you already thought of. You know, we usually come up with
yeah.
3 options quite quickly. It's like, it's this, this, or this. Okay, none of them work. It's not going to work. We're done. But if you come to option number 4 or 5, you have to force yourself to think outside
Mm,
of the box, because it's not the
yeah.
obvious thing staring you in the face. It's something where you
Mm,
have to analyze and, dig a little bit deeper to get a different approach out of it. So
yeah.
just a little tip, I've used this often, it actually really works. If you try to come up with at least 5 solutions, it helps you with being creative and thinking creatively.
Yeah, and I suppose the more you do that, the more you practice coming up with more solutions, the easier it is for your brain to actually do that. Because it's so easy for us, and
Absolutely.
we're so quick to go, "Ah, that's all I've got." Like, there is no, I've tried
Yes.
it all. No, you haven't.
Yes. I've tried
Yeah,
everything and it doesn't work.
like two things. Yeah,
Really?
exactly.
You've just tried
Okay, the
one
next,
thing over and over again.
yes, exactly. So the next skill is to be a leader. And this is also, I feel like I've been saying this for all 9 of the ones that we've covered so far. It's a really good one to be a leader, to be a leader in your business, in your life, in your community, and just think about the impact of that, right? Being viewed as the person that has the solution, that is the driving force, that is moving things forward. In, I think in so many ways, this is something that being a business owner has taught me, that there are going to be things that are necessary, things that I think should be done, that would be nice, but there are certain things that actually have to happen. It's not comfortable, it's not the things that feel good, but it's the necessary things that will allow the business to move forward. And thinking of the business as a separate part it's not me, it's a separate thing, right? And being the leader of that thing, being the leader that says, you know what, yes, it is hard to make this decision, it is hard to move in this direction, but it is what is necessary. And being that person that's able to do that, I think also it lets you walk around in life with a different level of confidence, I think, because it's like, I'm willing to do the things that are necessary. And even though it's uncomfortable.
Yes. Tying in with that is also, to be a leader, you need to be a leader in thought as well, because your
Yes.
actions are driven by your thoughts. So if for you to lead in any way, you need to be willing, brave enough to think different thoughts. That
Yes.
ties in with creativity, that ties in with emotional regulation. It actually ties in with everything that we discussed beforehand. Where everyone sees something bad, you need to try and find and see something good. Where everyone sees a problem, you need to see a solution.
Yep.
Where everyone is scared, you have to see the reasons to have faith.
Yeah.
And again, there's so much value on a personal level to cultivate that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last one, definitely my
He wants a
favorite,
drum roll.
yes, is making decisions. And this is such a powerful one because we underestimate sometimes the power of decisions in our lives. And we can all think back to some big decisions that we've made in the past that we're like, you know what, if I just made a different decision on that day, things might be very different today, right? And
Yes.
so we all know the power of decisions in our own lives. And being a business owner very quickly forces you to start making decisions and to be confident in the decisions that you make. And so, definitely a skill that can also serve you well in all areas of your life.
And to stick to your decisions. I think, it's easy to make a
Yeah.
decision, and it
Well, to
ties in with
me,
setting goals, being courageous to follow it and really go
yes,
after it. If you make a decision, you you might have to recommit to that decision 20 times
yes,
a day.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
exactly.
difficult part.
Yeah, and I think that, you haven't really made a decision if you're changing the decision constantly. Like you haven't really decided the true sense of, or the true meaning rather, of making decisions. Like the actual word decision means to cut off all other possibilities. That
Love
is
that.
what a decision is, right? And so it always makes me think about my dad, who has been an entrepreneur for most of his life. He always said, what's the alternative? Like, there is no alternative. This is what's happening. We just, the way we get there might look a little bit different than what we initially planned, but we're still getting there. So that is what decisions are. It's about cutting off all other possibilities and really going all in on whatever it is that you decide to go to do. And if you think
Burn the
about,
boat.
like you just said, yeah, the amount of time we change our minds, and that is what really burns us out, right? Making a decision
But
and
we
then
never
going,
do that,
no,
right? We
no,
we
never,
like
of course.
always. Ilonka and I always joke the amount of web domains that we own
Oh my word, we have all
since
of
we've
them. If
known
you
each
have a
other.
domain that you want, we have it. Just ask us. We'll sell it to you.
Yes, because we've started so many things. We have had so many ideas, and then it gets derailed. So it really
Yeah,
is a skill. It's not something that just comes natural. It's a skill to
you
say,
practice it.
I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to stick with it. And it forces you to be really intentional with the decisions that you make. So it's
Yes.
not just, oh, I'm going to do this now and let's hope it
Yeah.
works. It's, am I willing to really commit to this decision? Like your dad would say, there is no alternative. This is it. That's how serious it must be for you.
Yeah. It makes me think of some coaching that I got in terms of my offer, like what I'm selling in my business, right? So if you, in any other business, like the product that you're selling or the service that you're selling. And so I got coaching on choosing one offer and selling that one offer. And my brain freaked out. because I was like, this is such a big decision to make. But
Yes.
here's the power in
Yes.
it, right? When we make a decision and we remove all the other options or possibilities, the only thing that is left is to coach our brain on what's coming up, right? So think about this. If you're like, okay, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, or I'm going to, start a podcast, whatever it is, your brain is then going to offer you a bunch of things, and it's going to show you all the shiny objects, but we can do this, and we can also be on TikTok, and we can also be on LinkedIn or whatever it is. Those things are actually just distracting you from the discomfort of showing up with a YouTube channel or with a podcast. That's the actual thing that you need to deal with, right? So if I think about my offer, I was like, but what if no one wants this? What if this is not going to get me to my revenue goals, right? And we think that it's our brain going, but this is a bad idea. You shouldn't be making this decision. But these are actually legitimate questions that I need to answer for myself, right? And I will only be able or faced with those questions when I actually make the decision. And so I can constantly distract myself with other things, or I can choose one thing and just deal with whatever is coming up and actually do the work, the psychological sort of inner work that needs to be done in order for me to move forward on the decision that I've made. And that is the discomfort of making decisions for any decision that you're making. There's this discomfort of, am I making the right decision? As if there is a right or wrong, right?
Yes.
I think that is
And I
the
think,
discomfort. That's the hard part.
yes, and the discomfort is also that you don't have all the facts and you don't
Yes.
have any guarantees. Otherwise, it would just be the normal flow of life. It wouldn't be a decision. And that's a real skill, to be able to make a decision without guarantees, without having all the information. Because
Yeah.
especially if you're starting out, you won't have all the information. We joked about it before we started recording. For both of us, our first businesses, we thought, hey, I'm going to start a Facebook page and I'm going to rock it. That's it. My business is going to be great. After I created my business account on Facebook, and you get so many rude awakenings, and there are so many things that you didn't take into account, and you have to be able to roll with the punches and still stick to your decision and just change your methodology maybe without changing the goal.
Yeah, exactly. So it leaves me with this quote by Tony Robbins that I absolutely love and truly live by. It's that there is the business you are now and the business you are becoming. And you cannot become the business that you are meant to become, the business owner that you are meant to be, if you don't start, if you don't give what you've got now everything. And so I wanted to just share some interesting statistics that I found online as it relates to businesses in general globally. But it's actually hard to find really good statistics for South African businesses, but nevertheless, we got some. And it says that small and micro enterprises in South Africa employ anything between 50 and 60% of the workforce and contributes 34% of the nation's GDP, which to me is actually profound. We need small businesses, right? This is sort of the thing that keeps the economy humming, right? And if you look at South Africa's unemployment rate and all the challenges that we have, not just in South Africa, but globally, I truly believe that businesses, small businesses, can make such a massive impact on putting a dent in these things, right? It's a place for us to make a massive impact as business owners. And I was sort of searching for how many people actually start a business globally. And I said to Mandy also at the beginning of this episode, full transparency, I went to ChatGPT and I was like, dude, tell me, how many people actually start a business? And the answer was 12 to 14% of the adult population start businesses. Okay, so do the math with me now. 12 to 14% of billions of people start businesses. 50% of those businesses don't survive to their first 5 years, right? They don't make it. Of the 50% that do, only 30% roughly survive beyond 10 years, which means that of everyone on this planet, every human being, adult human on this planet, only about 1.9% of them start a business and succeed beyond 10 years. That is insane. So if that woman that was sitting in that audience asking that question on that video that we've been talking about, if she happens to stumble on this podcast episode and see it, right? I hope she does. But for you listening, watching, if you started a business, if you are watching this episode or listening to it and you're like, I'm still in the game. I'm not dead yet, right? I'm still here. If you show up every day, if you're chasing your dreams, if you want more for yourself and you're doing it through business, if you are a business owner, you need to know that you are actually a unicorn and you shouldn't give up just because some person thinks that you're not a business owner, right?
Yes, yes. I think it was Jim Rohn who said, learn as much as you can from as many people as possible and then make up your own mind.
Yes, love it. Cool. So that's it. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah. Yes, it was so awesome hanging out with you again. And yeah, I'm sure we'll hang out on each other's channels again in the future as well. It's always good chatting with you.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Bye.
Done.